Evening, everyone. My name is Jim Brady, town moderator. Please take your seat. If you're an RTM, this side of the aisle. If you're not, in the back of the hall, please. A quorum of 76 RTMs being present, please come to order. Please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be followed by the singing of our national anthem by the Walpole High School Concert Chorus. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Beautiful job. Thank you, boys and girls. Thank you. Please be seated. I'd like to make a few introductions. Liz Gaffney is our town clerk. Does the clerk attest to the return of the warrant? She does. On stage, we have our attorney, Lauren Goldberg, Jim O'Neill, chairman of the Board of Selectmen, town administrator, Jim Johnson. Down below is Denny Crowley and Doug Shea of the FinCom. I want to recognize Don Anderson, who's the building maintenance superintendent. Don is retiring, so we want to, is Don present? Don, please stand up. Don, nice job, round of applause. Don is available for autographs after the meeting in the back. We want to welcome Cam Dushner. He's the replacing Don. Where's Cam? Is Cam here this evening? Cam, please stand up. Welcome, Cam. Welcome to Walpole. This evening it's being broadcast by Walpole Media. It's pleased to be providing live coverage. It's on Channel 22 for Comcast and Channel 30 for Verizon. I want to recognize the TV people, Patrick Zist, Tamara Green, Jess Corgo, and Nicholas Piccarelli for their hard work, and we appreciate that very much. We have a few resolutions which I want to bring to your attention. I'm going to ask you to rise. Before I do want to introduce the new RTM members, if I could. And please stand when I call your name, and please hold your applause until I've read all the names. There's a few people I want to recognize. Precinct 1, George O'Malley. Precinct 2, Joe Williams, who happens to be my insurance guy down the Cape, by the way. Precinct 2, Ron Ardeen, who's the former chairman of the board of the FinCom. Is Ron with us? Maybe we didn't Ron. Yeah, there's Ron. Ron Ardeen. Janet Dinello from Precinct 2. Sarah Witherby, Precinct 2. Precinct 3, Elizabeth Chase. Justin Hayner and Jessica Kane. Precinct 5, Michael Chiella. Cynthia Enos-Hoag and Joshua Walther. Precinct 6, David Leonard. And it was a vacancy filled this evening when Thomas Boudreau won that vacancy in vote, Thomas. And Precinct 8, Timothy Bailey Jr. So welcome to town meeting, people. We have 3 resolutions I'd like you to read, and they're all dealing with former members of this body who have passed away, so please stand. It is resolved that we, the representative town meeting members, inscribe upon the roll of the fall annual town meeting of October 21st, 2024, our recognition in sincere appreciation of the contributions rendered by the late Edward T. Verderber, who passed away on October 2nd, 2024. As a representative town meeting member in Precinct 5 from 1996 through 1997, and further, in acknowledgement of the town's loss, we request the moderator observe a moment of silence in Ted's memory. The town clerk shall be instructed to send a copy of this resolution to Edward's family. Moment of silence for Ted Verderber. Thank you. It is also resolved that the representative town meeting inscribe upon the records of the fall annual town meeting of October 21st, 2024, our recognition and sincere appreciation of the contributions rendered by the late Francis X. Quinn, who passed away on July 15th, 2024. As a representative town meeting member from Precinct 4 from 1983 through 1986, in 1988, as well as 1991 through 1993. And further, in acknowledgement of the town's loss, we request the moderator observe a moment of silence in Francis's memory. And further, that the town clerk be instructed to send a copy of this resolution to Francis's family. A moment of silence. Thank you. Finally, the representative town meeting members inscribe upon the record of the fall annual town meeting of October 21st, 2024, our recognition and sincere appreciation of the contributions rendered by the late Steele J. Lightbody, who passed away on September 22nd, 2024. As a representative town meeting member from Precinct 4 from 1981 through 1986. And further, in acknowledgement of the town's loss, we request the moderator observe a moment of silence in Steele's memory, and that the town clerk be instructed to send a copy of this resolution to Steele's family. A moment of silence. Thank you very much. Please be seated. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for staffing the door, our custodial staff, Matt Brennan and Colin Hines for doing a wonderful job putting it together this evening. Our technical people, Mike Donovan, the iTech guru up there in the booth, along with Jim Connolly and Andrew Levinson. And I would also like to recognize some new department heads that have joined the town since the spring annual meeting. The reception, I can't read Jim's writing, sorry, Jimmy. Jim, what was the first one? I'm sorry. What's your position?
Renee's our new recreation director.
Okay,
Renee's
sorry.
in the back.
New recreation director, Renee Tocci, our library director, Jamie Viveros, and our assistant town accountant, Teresa Hickey. So if you are present, please stand. We'd like to recognize you. Welcome. Procedural rules, if you decide that you'd like to make a comment, please queue up in front of one of the microphones down front. And please speak when you're recognized by the moderator to do so. I'm going to maintain many of the rules that Dan Bruce put in the order, but there's one change I'm going to offer, and that is if you wish to if you wish to move the question, you may do so by raising your hand. If I recognize you from your seat, you can move the question if you wish from your seat. Otherwise, queue up at the microphones. As you all know, if you wish to raise a point of order, you can raise that from your seat, and you simply rise and say point of order. You need not be recognized by the moderator to raise a point of order. Please address your remarks to the moderator. If you're asking a question, I'll direct you to the right person. If you wish to speak on an article, as been the practice, I believe, in the last few town meetings, it's been a limit of 3 minutes. We'll see how that goes. If you want a little more time, it's not a problem. We'll take votes by voice, and I think you all received cards when you came in. We'll use the card method as well. And I want to recognize or let you know that our tellers this evening on my left, your right, is Jim Govatzos and Robert Damish. In the center is Katie Chirkawabady and Mark Trudeau. And on the right, my right, is Brian Connor and Bill Buckley. If there is a standing vote, I'll count the tellers' vote first by show of the tellers' hands, and then we'll do the standing vote, and the tellers will compare notes, as you know, and then get back to me with the tally. I have a couple of preliminary comments I'd like to make. Once again, welcome to the town meeting. It is an honor for me to serve as moderator of the town of Walpole. For those who have been involved for some time, I was moderator about 30 years ago, for about nearly 10 years. I wrapped it up in 2004, but I'm back. So, interestingly, the budget when I left was $50 million, and it's now it's $120 million, so my have things changed. I do want to recognize Dan Bruce, who I think did a marvelous job as moderator, and if Dan's watching this, which I doubt he is, but if he is watching this, Dan, thank you for all your hard work. So nice round for Dan. Following in Dan's example, I did send out with the help of many people at Town Hall, I sent out an email to all of you folks about the consent agenda and so forth. I've received no substitute motions. However, if you, during the course of this debate this evening, wish to make a substitute motion, just approach the town clerk, put it on the form, and we'll certainly entertain that. The moderator, as you know, has two functions. One is to run a fair meeting, and the other is to appoint fair-minded people who I believe should be fiscally prudent to the Finance Committee and other committees in the town, particularly the capital budget. Our Finance Committee is wonderful, headed by Danny Crowley, and they are very hardworking. I've appointed 5 new individuals to the Finance Committee. We have a full committee of 15, by the way. If they are present, I'd like you to stand and be recognized. Those new people to the Finance Committee are Ron Ardeen, Tim Boyle, April Dayton, Kelly Doucette, and Bill O'Connell. So there they are. Welcome to the Finance Committee, people. And thank you for agreeing to serve. It's not a small commitment, as we all know. Also want to note that Doug Shea and Gene Kenny were reappointed to the committee, and that Larry Pittman left the Finance Committee and went over to the Capital Budget Committee, and I also reappointed Cheryl Karen to the Capital Budget, which is chaired by Ed Forsberg. As to town meeting itself, I'd like to reference Howard Mansfield's book called In the Memory House, which has a chapter entitled The Museum of Democracy, Town Meeting. And Mr. Mansfield writes the following: town meeting is one of the few places we confront democracy outside of civic textbooks. If town meeting is an anachronism, then so is democracy. So I'm happy to say that at least in our town, town meeting and democracy are very much alive and well in Walpole. I expect that this town meeting at times will include some spirited debate. I would ask that any speaker uses facts and figures must direct us to those sources of the facts and figures. And of course, we want a civil tone throughout the course of the town meeting. I look forward to monitoring this meeting, and I believe that through open and honest communication, it will allow us to make the best decisions for our town. This evening, we are pleased to have one of our congressmen representing us in the United States Congress, Steve Lynch. I'd like Mr. Lynch to approach the podium and say a few words to the body. Steve Lynch.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Jim, for your... As a matter of fact, when I first got into office, you were the moderator. So welcome back, and it's a joy to be here. First of all, to all the new members of Representative Town Meeting, congratulations, and thank you for your willingness to be involved and to serve. As Jim noted, and the quotes that he repeated are certainly on point. The essence of our democracy is really involvement by our citizenry, and thank you for your willingness to come here and to debate the issues that affect daily life, not only here in Walpole, but also at the State House and also in Washington, D.C. I know you've got important. I had a chance to take a peek at the warrant. I was surprised because as a freshman member of Congress, I came and cut the ribbon when we opened the high school. And the debate at that time was, did we build it too big? And would we ever fill this place? You know, and just a beautiful, beautiful high school, and a wonderful and sunny and bright environment for our young people. And now we're debating an expansion, so it shows you how long I've been here. But to my colleagues in government, thank you very much for your willingness to serve as well. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Just to offer an update from Washington, D.C. We're usually in session during the week, but because of the proximity to Election Day, we've recessed, and we're not back in until after Election Day. But I'm pleased to report, sort of as a wrap-up, the town of Walpole received $2.2 million in federal funding from the CARES Act. That was, post-COVID. Some of it was to replace tax revenues that would have been earned by Walpole, but for the fact that economic activity had been depressed because of the pandemic, and so those revenues were not realized. So those were replacements through the federal government. And also, there was $2.6 million awarded to the town of Walpole through the Federal American Rescue Plan Act. And from what I understand, 1.3 has already been deployed, 1.3 million, and 1.3 million. And that money is at the discretion of each individual city and town, the ARPA money. So you get to decide what that money is to be spent on, but for the great benefit of your residents. I'm also very pleased to announce that we were able to do recently in this last round of appropriations bills. We worked very closely with Jim Johnson, your town administrator, did a great job. We were able to locate $250,000 to help with the pickup and drop-off area out in front of Walpole High School, just to make it safer for students and staff coming in and out. And the way the funding works, it has been approved by the Appropriations Committee, which is where the big fight occurs. Then it goes to the floor, and usually so Democrats and Republicans agreed on this $250,000 for the town of Walpole. The money won't be available till 2025, but might just coincide with some other needs that you have. So maybe we can use that federal money to replace money that might have come out of direct taxation of families in Walpole. At least that's my hope. That I know that project had been a priority for a while, but it just sometimes it takes a while until a proper source of money is available. These are called community funding priority projects. They used to be called earmarks, but they serve the same purpose. And I'm really, really grateful for the partnership we have, not only with Jim, but also with our state delegation. Senator Rush, Representative Rogers, Representative Marcus Vaughn, he's new to me, Eddie Phillips and Paul McMurtry. I've known them for years, but it worked very well, the coordination between federal, state, and local government. However, our appropriations work is far from done. This session, we passed a continuing resolution in order to stop the government from shutting down. But importantly, especially for our congressional districts, we have 3 very large VA hospitals. And there was a VA shortfall of about $12 billion nationally that would impact our 3 hospitals. One is in Brockton, one is in West Roxbury, one is in Jamaica Plain. So when we go back into session in this lame duck session after the election is over, we'll push that funding through. Importantly, a lot of the extra funding that was generated by the VA was in connection with the PACT Act. Not sure if you're familiar with that, but we have continually had, since Vietnam and the Agent Orange impact on men and women who served in Vietnam, we have had a steady drumbeat of servicemen and women who have come back from Iraq, Afghanistan, some who have served in Somalia, and different points of conflict where they come back after being exposed to, in the Gulf War, if you remember, Saddam Hussein lit on fire all of the oil fields in Iraq when the U.S. was going in. A lot of those service members were exposed to tremendous amounts of petrochemical fumes and smoke and had impact on their health later on. Well, the PACT Act, no matter what conflict you're in, it allows you, and in some cases where the service member perishes because of their exposure to these toxins, it provides benefits either to the member if they're alive, health care to the service member if they're alive, but also benefits to the family, because oftentimes, it has devastating effects on the family income and the family's well-being. So we've had, just in the state of Massachusetts after that PACT Act, I was a lead co-sponsor on that, we've had 18,576 families from Massachusetts. So those are either veterans or the families of veterans who have benefited from that PACT Act. And that has what's driving the added cost of operating the VA. And I'm hopeful that the House and Senate, one of the few things that Democrats and Republicans agree on down in Washington is taking care of our veterans. And so I'm highly confident that that bill will pass once we get back into session after the election. The congressional docket also includes finalization of the annual National Defense Authorization Act. That particular measure has been authorized for funding for our military personnel for over 63 consecutive years. It also includes reauthorization of critical agricultural nutrition, flood program as well, and because of the storm, the Hurricane Helene and other major events that we're still dealing with from a couple of years ago, there'll be a major rewrite of the flood insurance bill. I am proud to report some good news. The Department of Energy recently selected Power Up New England, which is a consortium to receive nearly $400 million in grant funding to upgrade our energy grid and facilitate our transition to clean energy. We're actually working, so the New England states are actually working with the Canadian government to try to bring some of the hydroelectric power down into the more heavily populated states, Massachusetts and Connecticut in particular. But this would allow us to replace energy that is being generated by fossil fuels with hydroelectric power. So we received the $400 million for that, and I'm really excited about the possibilities that creates. The Department of Transportation also awarded us, Massachusetts, $1 billion from the federal funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law to support the replacements of the Sagamore and the Boar bridges. We received a total of $1.72 billion. The total project for both bridges cost about $4 billion. I used to build bridges for a living, so we called in the estimators and the companies that gave us those bids, and they admitted that there had been an accelerator there in their bid number, but they pointed to the rate of inflation for an 8-year project. So we're going to continue to argue about that bottom dollar, but in any event, we did receive $1.72 billion, which just about pays for one bridge. We'll have to work on the other. Again, it's an honor for me, it really is, to represent the town of Walpole in the United States Congress. I know Walpole. I know the type of people here. I've been representing the town of Walpole for 20 years now. And you can tell a lot about a town, the way they treat their children. And I know you're debating an expansion of the high school, but just in general, the dreams that you have for your kids and the hopes you have for them. And so many of our young people in Walpole attend my Academy Day year after year. We've had a slew of Walpole kids that have gone to West Point, Annapolis, Coast Guard Academy, Air Force Academy at Colorado Springs, Merchant Marine. So it says a lot about a town. Another thing that really reveals the character of a town is how you treat your senior citizens. And Walpole certainly measures up in that respect. The way that they're respected and treated, and also the way you treat your veterans. And I don't think there's a town in my district, I have 18 towns in 3 cities, there's no town in my district that is more appreciative and more respectful and just thankful for people who have put on the men and women who have put on the uniform from the town of Walpole and represented this country over many, many years. So it's an honor for me to represent you in Congress, and may God bless the town of Walpole, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Lynch. It's always good to see you, and as a veteran, I hope that money goes through. Okay. We're giving out a couple of things. I do want to say one thing. It's a point of privilege here, if I could. I want the town meeting to consider moving the town meeting to the Byrd Middle School for the spring. So think about it. If you have real problems with it, let me know. You have my cell phone number now. Please do not call me at 2 a.m., but call me and tell me your thoughts. Also share your thoughts with the Board of Selectmen. But if for those who haven't been through that building yet, I had the pleasure of going down to see it. It is remarkable, and the auditorium is just fantastic, extremely comfortable. I think we'll be very happy there. So I know that I was the moderator who moved the town meeting from what was the West Junior High School at one time, and it was Johnson Middle School up here, and people seemed to like it. A few people balked about it, but they seemed to like it, and we'll see if you would enjoy going over to the middle school. Secondly, I do want to speaking of the middle school, I want to commend the Board of Selectmen. When they went out for borrowing in the middle school, the Board of Selectmen had some foresight, the Select Board had the foresight to get ahead of the interest rates at that time and borrow in advance and save the town nearly $6 million in borrowing costs. So I think it's a testament to the quality of the people we have on the Select Board. And also, kudos to Jim Johnson. He didn't know I was going to say anything, but for the first time in our history, we have a AAA bond rating, which is unbelievable. And that is a real. By the way, it doesn't stand for the American Automobile Association. No, it really, all kidding aside, it really is a wonderful accomplishment. We have never had that in the town, and we are saving millions of dollars as a result of that. So, again, congratulations to you, Jim. And before we move on to the preliminary motions, there is one more person we want to recognize, and I'm going to ask Jim Johnson to take it from here. Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Before we get started, I'd just like to take a moment to recognize DPW Director Rick Mattson. Rick, if you don't mind, please stand up. He doesn't know this is coming.
Stand up, Rick.
Tomorrow marks Rick's 50th anniversary working for the town of Walpole, which is truly not just a number, it represents a lifetime of dedication, hard work, and unwavering commitment. When Rick was first hired on October 22nd, 1974, the hourly rate was $2.34. Over these 5 decades, he's played such an important role here in Walpole. He's made so many significant contributions that have positively impacted our community over the years. Rick's been more than just a colleague. He's been a mentor, a friend, and a source of inspiration to many, especially in the DPW. His loyalty, passion, have helped shape our culture here and pave the way for future generations here in Walpole. Thank you for your service, Rick. Here's to you and many more years of shared success. Thank you.
Okay, I said in the email I sent to you folks that we were going to take a picture. We took a picture last of the body in 1999. I commissioned that picture. We had Henry Baker take it. I commissioned it because it was the last town meeting of that century, and I thought it had historical significance, and the historical side thought so as well. This is the town meeting which marks the 300th anniversary of the town of Walpole. I want to commend the 300th anniversary committee. They've done a stellar job, and that parade was fantastic. So congratulations to the committee. Wonderful job. I happen to, Bill Buckley, who talked about getting this picture, wants to put it into a time capsule at the new middle school, which is great. Bill happened to send me an email today with a picture of the 1999 photograph. I took a look at it, and I was sitting in the front row, and I noticed that everybody in the front row, except for 2 people, are now deceased. So I suggest you don't sit in the front row. I'm only kidding. I'm going to ask the people on the stage to please down and sit in the front row. Liz as well, you folks as well. All town meeting members, and anybody else who wants to sit down. I want to get Mr. Dalton down in the front if I can, all right? I had a nice chat with him. I loved his dad. His dad was here in '99. If I could get you, all the town meeting representatives sit in the middle section here, please, the center section. So you folks that are in the center section, please move in as close as you can to make room for others to join you. And we're going to be using every seat in this section here, so this will only take us about 5 minutes. The picture is being taken, by the way, by Eric Hurwitz, who owns a company called visitingnewengland.com, and Eric has been very gracious to take this photograph. So if we could get everyone down that's involved in the town meeting. Yeah, I'd like to, that row's good. Sit right in the front. We're going to use every seat, so sit in the front row too. Guys, come down in the front row. If there's not enough room there, please come down. I'm going to get in there myself. Oh, thank you. And I'm glad that some of you, I gave you advance notice. I see some of you really got decked out for this. Looking good, folks. All right, let me hop down there.
I'll go 1, 2, 3, and you can say cheese or yay. One, two, three. One, two, three. And I'll probably take one, two, three. Two more. One, two, three. This section up here too, I just want to get that section as well. So maybe a few close-ups. Just a few close-ups of each different section. Take less than a minute. Yeah.
They all have their cards, I think.
And I got to swear Nancy Galvin in, so we're good.
Oh, good. Okay, I did ask, I wonder, I hope there's a few of you here 50 years from now to see that picture. So, All right, we move on to business, please. Preliminary motions. I have a motion from the Finance Committee to waive the reading of the warrant. Requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? If necessary, I will read some of the articles when we get to them, but for the convenience of the viewing audience, not for you folks, I know you all have your warrants with you. I have another motion of the Finance Committee that all motions of the Finance Committee be the main motion. This requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is a vote. Article 1. Moving to the consent agenda. The consent agenda provides, as the rules provide, for the moderator to make use of the consent agenda, compromise of articles which generate no apparent controversy or could be properly voted as one unit. The articles, I've sent you the articles that I believe should be on the consent agenda. However, that's my opinion, and you're certainly will to disagree with that. By the way, I'm not a town meeting member. I have no vote in any of these votes, by the way. So I'm going to read the articles that have been put on the consent agenda. If you want to hold that article, just say hold, and we'll hold it. This motion requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, I'm going to read the consent agenda. Article 2, updates to the Walpole personnel bylaws. Who's holding? I can't see who that is. John O'Leary. Okay, John. Who else has a hold? Sarah Khatib. Okay. And you're going to have to forgive me a little bit some of the names. I've been out of circulation for 20 years. Okay. Anybody else want to hold Article 2? Okay, so that's not on the consent. Article 4, confirmation of the contract between the town of Walpole and the DPW employees. Article 5, OPEB, other post-employment benefit account, which is appropriations from free cash. Article 6, stabilization fund, appropriations from free cash. Article 7, capital stabilization fund, appropriations from free cash. Article 11, transfer of funds of free cash to the opioid settlement special revenue fund. Okay, all the articles, Article 4, 5, 6, 7, and 11 are on the consent agenda. This requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is a vote. Article 1, it is regularly moved that the town hear and act upon the report of any committee or choose any committee the town may think proper and transact any other business that may legally come before the town. This is a standard article which remains open during the pendency of the town meeting. It will be closed upon dissolution of the town meeting. Are there any committees or boards which wish to report anything to the body? There being none. I was approached prior to the town meeting by Mr. O'Leary to ask if he could say a few words with regard to an issue that he wants to address as to last spring town meeting, and I gave him the leeway to do so. So, Mr. O'Leary, you have a few minutes if you want to voice your issue. Take a mic, whichever you want. If you want to turn that so you can face the folks when you're speaking, you can do that. Okay?
John O'Leary, Precinct 3. Something that was brought to my attention, and I want to pass it along to the rest of the town meeting. Last fall, there was an article allowing the town to give the select board the right to dispose of 3 pieces of property. Since then, it's come to my attention that one of those 3 pieces of property, located on Kingsbury Lane or Street, was actually acquired by eminent domain by the town as a taking from the then owner back in 1930. Since the town took it for the purpose of putting a water tank up there, and it has not used it as such, apparently it decided it doesn't need the land anymore. But because it was taken as by eminent domain, the use of the property must remain a municipal use. It cannot be sold off to a developer or a single person for residential use. it must be allocated to a particular municipal use, and that doesn't appear to be what's happening with that. So I feel the town meeting should request information from the town meeting, the select board, town government, as to why this is being failed to use it for a municipal use. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Does anybody from the town wish to address that, or does anybody have any other comments at this point in time? Yes, ma'am. What was the property?
Kingsbury Street, Lane, 1 acre lot near the cemetery.
Okay, Kingsbury Street, Lane, a 1 acre lot near the cemetery. Okay. No further questions. We're going to move to Article 2. Article 2 was on the consent agenda. It's now was put on hold by Mr. O'Leary and Sarah Katib. Article 2 reads as follows. It is regularly moved and seconded that the town vote to appropriate amendments to the personnel bylaws as found on file in the office of the town clerk. This is a petition by the Select Board. Mr. Crowley, Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee voted favorable action 11-0-0.
Mr. O'Neill, Select Board.
Select Board voted 5-0-0 favorable action.
Questions and comments with regard to Article 2? Ms. Katib.
I was waiting for Mr. O'Leary to come first, but question is, oh, good boy. There was a note that the changes are available at the town clerk. I was just wondering why it couldn't be sent to all town meeting members or posted on the website?
Okay. Mr. Johnson?
Sure. I received a similar request earlier this afternoon. We'll do that going forward. It has been available since August 8th on file with the town clerk. It's my understanding that she's provided it to whoever has asked. I don't think actually anybody's come in. I included a summary of the proposed changes that were considered and voted on by the Select Board back in May. But we can certainly do that going forward in the future.
I did email the town clerk today, I think, and I believe there's at least one other RTM that requested it, and the answer was it's available for you to come in person.
And if I could just follow up on that, that other person was provided with a copy today.
Oh. But I wasn't. Okay, thank you.
You didn't ask me. I'll give you my copy if you'd like.
I feel like if we're going to be voting on something, it shouldn't require an extra trip to town hall during open time just to review what we're supposed to be considering. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions and comments? Mr. O'Leary.
John O'Leary, Precinct 3. The
Okay.
main question I had, looking through it here, numbers 1 through 9 on the package you got. Residency requirements relating to public safety department heads. Currently, the bylaws require that any public safety department head reside in Walpole or a contiguous community. The Select Board has recommended adding the following language at the end of this section. The Select Board may vote to waive this residency requirement. I've always felt that it's a good idea, not only of the public safety, but of any town board members to be residing in the town of Walpole itself, or at least a neighboring town. So I recommend against the change in the personnel boards that includes that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Further questions and comments with regard to Article 2? There being none, requires simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is a vote. Article 3. This is adjustments to the current year operating budget, which is spelled out in your town warrant. This is a petition of the Select Board. Mr. Crowley.
Finance Committee voted favorable action 11-0-0.
Mr. O'Neill.
Select Board voted favorable action 500.
Questions and comments with regard to Article 3? There being none, it requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? It is a vote. Article 4 is consent agenda, as is Article 5, as well as Article 6 and Article 7. So we move to Article 8. Article 8 deals with the facilities capital stabilization. I'm not going to read the entire thing. It deals with setting up a new fund known as the Facilities Capital Stabilization Fund. This is a petition of the Select Board. Mr. Crowley.
Finance Committee voted favorable action 11-0-0.
Mr. O'Neill.
Select Board voted favorable action 500.
Questions and comments with regard to Article 8? Yes, ma'am. Elizabeth Barrows, thank you.
Precinct 1.
Elizabeth, can you move that microphone down so people can hear you? You can move the whole boom down a little bit. Just pull it down a little
Hello?
bit. You're not going to break it. Yeah,
It's fine.
yeah, that's better.
Just clerical thing. Is this the only thing that this particular account is going to be earmarked for Johnson?
Okay.
I just noticed it's the only difference from the previous account was a one word. So the Article 7 was Town's Capital Stabilization Account, and this one's facilities. Is it all
Yeah.
facilities or just?
To whom are you addressing your comment?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, Town Administrator?
To the town administrator?
Yes,
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
So the way we set this up is so it could be used on all other facilities. I didn't limit it going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions and comments with regard to Article 8? There being none, it requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? It is a vote. Article 9, capital budget non-borrowing items.
It has to be a two-thirds.
Oh, really?
Oh, no, it's a majority, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, my apologies.
That's no problem. Okay, Article 9 deals with capital budget, non-borrowing items. This is a petition again of the Select Board. Mr. Crowley, Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee voted favorable action 13-0-0.
Mr. O'Neill, Select Persons.
Select Board voted favorable action 500.
And Mr. Forsberg for the Capital Budget Committee.
Capital Budget Committee voted 6-0-0 favorable action.
Thank you, Mr. Forsberg. Questions and comments with regard to Article 9?
Mr. Moderator, so 8 is a two-thirds. So we just, if you could just go back, you could do either way.
Yeah, okay. Okay, then we can go ahead. Actually, no, let's finish this article first. Article 9, questions and comments with regard to Article 9. There being none, oh, I'm sorry. Could you go to the microphone, please? Ms. Barrows, thank you.
Is this the one where they're looking for $300,000 for the fire station number 2? Mr. Moderator, if anyone from the town.
Mr. Johnson?
That includes that item, yes.
It does.
And is that the East Walpole one or the South Walpole?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
It's a study to figure out what we should do with our, the East Walpole building. That building was built in the early 1900s, and really just to look at what are our options. Are there other properties owned by the town that would be ideal as far as response times? It's just the beginning of a very long process. So it is Station 2, though, East Walpole.
Thank you. Mr. Damish?
Damish Precinct. I want to look at these guys. Damish Precinct 7. First off, just a comment just to the body that there's a lot to take in here. I hope everyone had a chance to look at it. I mean, there's probably 25 items we're voting on here on this one item, so it's a lot to take. My question that I'm looking at here is down in the school department, and it has to do with the modular classrooms for Boyden Elementary School, adding 2 modular classrooms at a cost of $950,000. I'm just curious, I think I have an idea how modular will look, but is it, like, how many students do those hold? Is it attached to the building? Just what can people expect once those are in place?
Thank you, Mr. Damish. The business person from the school is going to address that issue. Mike Fresher. Mike, is there a microphone there?
Press it.
I think it's a little light. Press that little button. No, the green light's on. Can you turn the volume up so you can be heard, please? Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
So the modular classrooms are equivalent to 2 normal classrooms in the building itself. So approximately 25, 28 students would be accommodated.
Mr. Damish?
I just want to get an idea. Will they have a hallway that attaches to the school? The kids have to go outside. How does it all look?
So the plan is to incorporate the modulars as best we can in with the building, so the facade would look like the building does itself with red brick. It would have a hallway coming from an existing doorway into the 2 modular classrooms. They would not have to walk outside.
Thank you. Just want a visual.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Damish. Thank you, sir. Mr. Chekarowski.
Philip Sharovsky, Precinct 7. I just have a question through you, Mr. Moderator, through the town administrator. I was just wanting to know whether any of the vehicles, I know you're buying some pickup trucks. Was there any plan or looking at getting electric vehicles? At this time, I know in the green community, when we got accepted to the green community plan, we had a motor vehicle 5-year plan to try to get to some electric vehicles.
Mr. Moderator, through
Yes,
you.
Mr. Johnson.
So the answer is yes. A lot of these pieces of equipment that I'm looking at is the F-250s, those larger pieces of trucks. We did become a member of the Green Communities, I think back maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and part of the agreement that we signed is that the trucks besides DPW and police, and fire of course, would be energy efficient, green, much more green than we had back then. And the state is pushing down a law that they're looking to delay by 2 years, but it's converting a lot of the diesel trucks to the green trucks too. So that's going to also drive up our cost of the vehicles themselves, the heavy-duty vehicles. But the answer is yes, we've transitioned over to them. Whatever we can do as green vehicles, we are doing. Much more energy efficient, but some of even these F-250s for $85,000, I looked at it and questioned it immediately. I said, I can go find an F-250, and he said, yeah, but it's up to the green standards today. You're looking at $10,000 for a plow package, $2,500 for a lighting package, and I think he told me he's budgeting 10% for inflation for whenever they come in. But to answer your question, the answer is yes, we are.
So are they electric or just more gas efficient?
More gas efficient.
Yeah, are there any plans to go to all electric at some point?
We're working on, Mr. Moderator, through you, I'm sorry.
Yes.
We're working on getting some charging stations in town. I think you note that we have 4 or 5 at the library that are just about ready to come online. We're working with some other providers through our Green Communities Coordinator to see what other opportunities. My plan would be to get charging stations in town much more, not only for the residents, but also vehicle maintenance department accessible before we transitioned over.
Not just promoting that, because electric vehicles work very well for town vehicles, which don't really probably drive a lot of miles and come back to the garage every night, so the opportunity to recharge them, and it's an easy way for the town to make another step towards meeting our green energy goals. So thank you for again just promoting that, and thank you for the town continuing to work on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chekarowski. Mr. O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Phil O'Connell, Precinct 4. Through you, Mr. Moderator, just to follow up on Mr. Damish's question with respect to the modular classrooms, and this may be for the school department business manager, but just trying to get a sense of the future projections, whether is it just Boyden that you're seeing an increase in the enrollment, and these two modulars, I think, how long are they going to be existing for, or through you, superintendent? But just trying to get a sense of How long they're going to be there for, and have you thought about, is redistricting something that may be in the cards if the enrollment is not steady across the elementary schools?
Mr. O'Connell, you're directing it to the superintendent or the business manager?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, thank you.
Superintendent.
Sure, through you, Mr. Moderator. These modulars, primarily, it's the reason because our severe special needs population, which is housed at Boyden Elementary School, is growing by leaps and bounds. They originally were Daniel Feeney Preschool, and they are coming up, and they're going to be with us for 6 years, and the population behind them is just growing. These are our students with the most significant needs, severe autism, and we want them in the least restrictive environment with our peers to keep them in district. So this is why, so no redistricting, but it's because this population is housed at Boyden Elementary School. So hopefully that clarifies.
It doesn't, and they're not staying at Feeney, or?
No, because they're in, when they're in preschool, then they're housed at Boyden Elementary School, kindergarten all the way through grade 6. And as we're looking at the population, they're increasing every year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connell. Further questions, Mr. O'Connell?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connell. Any other questions or comments with regard to Article 9? There being none, this requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? It is a vote. I want to go back briefly to Article 8. I was informed by the town council that Article 8 required a two-thirds vote. It was a unanimous vote, so I declare it to be a two-thirds vote. And that's for the records. Article 10. Article 10 is a capital budget borrowing items. Deals with fire engine purchase, Allen Dam construction, Willis WTP Lagoon construction, etc. This is a borrowing article. This is going to require a two-thirds vote. This is a petition of the Select Board. Mr. Crowley, Finance Committee, please.
The Finance Committee voted favorable action, 13-0-0.
Select Board, Mr. O'Neill.
Select Board voted favorable action, 5-0-0.
Capital Budget, Mr. Forsberg.
Capital Budget voted 6-0-0, favorable action.
Thank you. Questions and comments with regard to Article 10? Mr. O'Leary.
John O'Leary, Precinct 3. Just some clarification. On the fire engine, is this just one single engine? What type of engine is it? Through you, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, it is one single engine. Unfortunately, about 3 or 4 years ago, right around when COVID started, we were able to go out buy two fire engines, and I think the total cost on those fire engines were about $1.3 million. Things have gone up so much. I know Chief Barry has investigated the cost. This is the bottom line price, and it's actually not outfitting the fire engine, so it's one single fire engine, and it's replacing a 2009. Paul, give me a thumbs up if I'm giving the right year. 1999. Sorry.
Just a pump engine, not a ladder.
Not a ladder.
On the first two items, it's listed as GF borrowing. Could you explain that, please?
Mr. Johnson?
I didn't hear the whole.
The question is, the first item is a GFR. Can you explain that?
A GFR.
Mr. O'Leary, can you put that microphone up a little more closer? You're going to talk into these microphones.
Sorry.
The source on
That's better.
the paper here is GF borrow. Could you explain what that means, please?
It stands for General Fund Borrowing.
And I assume by Allen Dam, that's the dam on Washington Street, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Other questions and comments with regard to Article 10? Requires a two-thirds vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is a vote. It's a two-thirds vote. It's actually an unanimous vote. Article, I want to declare it's a unanimous vote, please. Any vote that has no dissent will always be declared as a unanimous vote. That's my practice. Article 11 is consent agenda articles, so we're all set with that. Now we move to Article 12, and this is a lengthy article regarding to the high school. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will tell you, for those viewing, it's moved that the town appropriate the sum of $35,202,582.69 to pay costs of architectural designs. I want to make sure you include the 69 cents in this one, by the way, to originally equip and furnish the high school for an addition. This is a petition of the Select Board. Mr. Crowley, Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee voted favorable action, 13-0-0.
Selectmen, Select Board, Mr. O'Neill.
Select Board voted favorable action, 5-0-0.
Mr. Forsberg, did your committee take a vote on this?
Yes, Capital Budget Committee voted favorable action 5-0-0. And Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a point that congratulate the town administrator for going through all of this without an override, just doing out of regular general borrowing.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Forsberg. The school committee is the presenter, the mover on this, if you will. Mr. Buckley, who is the chairperson of the school committee. Mr. Buckley.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. See, it's not that bad when your fish is too tall, that's why. Through you, Mr. Moderator, Buckley, Precinct 7, Chair of the school committee. School committee voted 4-0-0 in favor of this last week, and we voted 7-0-0 in favor of it to begin the project and approve the project over the summer. On behalf of my colleagues on the school committee, we are petitioning this body for $35,805,898, and that's 69 cents that we direly need for the project to allow us to renovate Walpole High School. This number includes the final design costs, construction costs, equipment, technology fees, and contingencies. It's through the use of an amalgamation of different funding sources, and we are not seeking an override for this proposal. Over a decade ago, the school committee identified the need to address the physical plant of our secondary school facilities. The 2013 Municipal Facilities Master Plan Study, the McGuire Report, codified that need for an additional updated spaces at both Walpole High School and our middle schools. This building was originally built in 1908. In 2018, the district incorporated those needs along with those of the two middle schools into its initial funding request for the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the MSBA. With an incredible amount of hard work from many of the people in this room, we were able as a community to successfully build a new combined middle school building, which we'll cut the ribbon on October 30th. We hope all of you can join us there. However, the school committee did not lose sight of the needs of this building, Walpole High School, as well. We did an additional in-depth review of all existing high school programs through a working group, and our representative was initially our colleague, Mr. Ahern, and then Ms. Cyrek, to detail the visioning and planning and meeting the demands of 21st century education for Walpole High School. That working group came up with a number of recommendations and need for science STEM classrooms, noting that they're small, with no options for expansion or future-proofing the curriculum as the years go on. The current spaces are inflexible and designed for lecture-style learning. We need more flexible space to facilitate teaching in 21st century skills like collaboration, communication, digital literacy, critical thinking, and creative problem solving. We have a small music and performing arts space, which is insufficient. There are improvements that are needed to the exterior of the site to ameliorate issues with traffic, parking, and pedestrian safety, and we'd like to improve safety throughout, especially at the front entrance. As part of the study, the current gymnasium and administrative spaces were looked at and examined as places where renovation and expansion might be able to help the priorities we outlined. To address the needs, the question before you proposes a complete renovation of the existing science wing, supporting the current science teaching practices and course offerings with proper facilities, the addition of a greenhouse allowing for the expansion of the science curriculum, additional space for student services and counseling to address the growth of social emotional needs of our students. As I said, increased security upgrades, including to the storefront at the opening of the building, a flexible multi-purpose space right out here to address 21st century learning, renovated performance spaces to support music, film, and our theater programs, a new field house structure supporting many of the curriculum departments and sports, and additional HVAC improvements that have and will be made outside and within the scope of this project. In short, the project before you, produced in concert with our counterparts of the town side of government, addresses a substantial number of the needs of the school through a reasonable use of available monies. We believe that this renovation will allow Walpole High School to grow and thrive for the next quarter century. So just to very quickly to address perhaps some of the larger questions you may ask me before you ask them, you may ask, why are we building a field house instead of more classrooms? Due to their large open areas, gymnasiums are typically the most cost-effective new construction category. Other program spaces, such as classrooms, have significantly more walls, doors, ceilings, lights, HVAC, electrical, and the like, and specialty equipment, which will drive up the per square foot cost. The large open box format of the field house is conducive to multiple efficient types of construction. And the field house is really important to this renovation addition, because with the field house, we move the gym out of where the gym is now. We're able to move music to where the gym is. We're able to move guidance to where music is, and student services. We're able to move special ed to where guidance is. We're able to take some of the offices we have here in STEM and move them over to Plimpton. So we're really reshuffling the deck, as we did in the last renovation, to create greater use of the space of this building. We sort of mentioned, a few of you coming in this evening, about parking here at the high school. I know we've heard from some folks in the wider neighborhood about parking for events here at Walpole High. The net total increase of parking by using more space in front of Plimpton and using the former softball field behind the snack shack will be 60 additional spaces to the physical plant here. And then we talk about renovating the science wing and really future-proofing it. With strong collaboration from our science chairs and with the leadership of our high school principal, Steve Imbush, who's on the tour with us and was a great asset as he led our project to renovate this place. As we looked at the science wing, there are a lot of poorly used spaces within the science wing. There are cutouts that could be used for classroom space that recede into the classroom. There's sort of duplicative cabinetry throughout all of the science rooms. And the hope here is by really gutting those facilities, we'll be able to increase classroom space by more than 25%, outfit each lab with more movable furniture, providing the need to in design flexibility and adapt for future programmatic changes. We'll allow for science breakout rooms. We'll add a 2-story physics drop space, so we're not doing physics experiments in hallways and stairwells anymore. And we'll include upgraded science equipment. And the goal here is when we create these spaces, we'll be able to change out through our capital plans in the future equipment as it gets, those pieces of equipment are updated. With that, I know many of you joined us for a really productive tour of this building. I know many of you have looked at our FAQs, watched our public hearing on the subject. We're happy to take any questions myself and our leadership team may have.
Questions and comments with regard to Article 12? Yes, ma'am.
Which number?
The question is, and Mrs. Burke will allow this, but you need to come to the mic in the future. That's okay. No, that's all right. I heard the question. The question was, can you repeat the number? Because I think you misspoke, Mr. Buckley.
Did I miss the 69 cents, Mr. Moderator?
He did not include the 69 cents, Mrs. Burke. No, I'm only kidding.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I will change my remarks to whatever number it is you said at the beginning.
The number, all kidding aside, is $35,202,582.69.
Can't trust me. I tried to sneak in a few extra million.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Burke. Questions and comments with regard to, is the gentleman coming down? No. Bill Carroll.
Bill Carroll, Precinct 4. Question. If you ever were on Prospect Street and you didn't want to wait in line for your child, you parked in front of my house, which everybody does. Parking at the police station, is that going to be still free for the kids? And it's, you know what I mean? Because now you can park at the police station across the street. There's a parking lot, true?
Through Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Buckley.
Through Mr. Moderator, we do hope that we'll take a lot of the kids from down with it there with the 60 extra spaces for students and have them up here. But we don't control those lots, so I can't speak to what the town would do with the lots that they manage on South Street.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that we should keep those for the students that still stay there. But me and the town administrator were talking about 16 more places next to the pump house.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm just thinking of parking. Because, you know, at 2:30 in the afternoon, when that line's,
right,
you're just crazy.
Mr. Carroll, I think Mr. Johnson can answer your question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Johnson?
So at this time, there is no source of revenue plan from that site. It's a public parking lot. We're not looking, there's no plans to charge for it there. Initially, it was built to serve as a satellite lot for the senior center. One of the unplanned things that came out of this was the high school juniors especially use that site as an overflow lot. And it's sometimes difficult to manage when the senior center has events, but I think through Principal Inbush, Superintendent Goff, Police Chief, myself, we all try to manage it, get the word out to the kids who park there that it's not available on certain days, but that's, to answer your question, no plans on charging it for there.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, I just want that lot to be open. Do seniors get parking spaces, or juniors get parking spaces? I'm confused now.
Mr. Johnson?
So it's my understanding, having a senior myself, the seniors get parking first rights here at the high school.
Juniors can park there?
And I think the juniors, her being a junior last year, we weren't able to get parking, and she found creative ways.
So they use that lot down there?
Yeah.
Okay. That's I think that lot should stay and be used for that function. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, you know, it's a
No
only
plans
right.
on changing that.
What?
No plans to change that.
Okay, all right. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Garrow. Other questions and comments with regard to Article 12? Mr. O'Leary?
John O'Leary, Precinct 3. Through you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Buckley, could you tell us the class size of the classes up at the high school, approximately?
Mr. Buckley?
Through you, I will defer
your
to Steve.
principal, Mr.
There's a
Inbush.
pretty big difference between, so say, a lab class and lecture, but Steve, would you like to give sort of the ballpark for us?
The total number at the high school currently is 930 students. That is down slightly this year, but as you have heard from other articles, the numbers coming up from the elementary schools look to be increasing. So.
And is that's for 3 years, is that correct?
4.
4 years?
4.
Okay. So my calculations, that would be roughly 230 or so per class?
Correct, it's approximately.
Okay. Having graduated from Walpole High School 50 years ago, when the school was much smaller than this, and our class size was almost 400 per class year, why do we constantly need to build this school bigger?
To whom are you addressing your question, Mr. O'Leary?
I'm addressing to the audience. Thank you.
Okay. Then Mr. Inbush can take a break, I guess, huh? Is that a rhetorical question, Mr. O'Leary?
It's a fact, well, it's an informational question.
Okay.
I think maybe the town meeting needs to tell the town government and the school committee that we're tired of seeing the tail wag the dog. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Other questions and comments? Yes, ma'am.
Virginia Connolly from Precinct 4. I had a question with regards to the parking. So, moderator, through you, but probably to Mr. Buckley. It appears that there is on the schematic some lawn or green area near the new proposed parking lot in front of the Plimpton building. My question is, has there been consideration in keeping some greenery in there? And is there any opportunity for, say, myself or other Precinct 4 members who are living right on Common Street across from that area to have any input into having some buffer there between Common Street and the high school parking lot that's intended to be put in?
Mr. Buckley?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, of course, we'd want to have a dialogue with you as neighbors. I believe I don't have there's so many schematics, I don't have them all in front of me up here, but I do believe there is some dotting and some breaks in between. They're not completely jammed. I believe there are some, what you would call sort of small berms in between each row, and I think that's something we can definitely take a look at as well.
Okay.
They're all small trees now.
Do you know, is there any opportunity in the future to have the abutting property owners make any few comments or any recommendations with that as the project goes along, you know?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, it's my understanding that we sort of passed the project once approved to the Permanent Building Committee, and I know the chair and others are there, and they meet regularly about the status of the project, so that would probably be the vehicle, but I'm happy to be corrected.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Connolly, and thank you, Mr. Buckley. Further questions and comments with regard to Article 12? Ms. Barrows, if you have a question, come on down to the microphone, folks. And just to remind the body, this is going to require a 2/3 vote. Yes, Ms. Barrows.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I have a bunch of questions, so I apologize in advance if I take a long time. Liz Barrows, Precinct 1. So I'm grateful for all of the responsiveness that the school committee has provided me over the last few weeks trying to get additional information about this. And I'm probably one of very few people within the community or the town meeting that is undecided on this one. And oddly enough, I have 2 children that will benefit from this, as the completion project would be when they enroll in 9th grade. So anyhow, so I just say that it was concerning to me that, and this is to the body, that it appears we are not asking enough questions, and I support our schools 100%, and my only issue is the recommended path and how we support the schools. And through you, Mr. Moderator, to Mr. Buckley or anyone that can answer this from the school committee. As you know, I was trying to get the other iterations when the project first went through the design and schematic phase, and you shared the documents about the different concepts, I guess, is what the document said. But there was never anything that was an addition that was not a field house. And so by absence of me receiving any of that information, I'm making the assumption that that was never provided by the team that was hired to do this. Is that an accurate statement or no?
Mr. Buckley?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to my friend from East Walpole, and just as you said in your remarks, I'm grateful for your engagement, and we've had a great dialogue about this, and I appreciate the due diligence that you've brought to this project. I think, to answer your question in a wider way and then in a direct way, because that's what I do, as you know, we as a body understand that we're part of a whole here in town, and what we knew was going forward that we had a need, but that we did not, the 7 of us, feel that we wanted to consider an override. So when we began to look at the need, we started to ask ourselves, what can we do with the money available, with what the town believes they can make available to us, understanding that there are other needs and other competing interests within our community. And when we did that and we began working with the architectural groups and those who produced the options for us, we learned very quickly that new construction in steel per capita was a smaller number for a large empty box than say rebuilding an additional 1908 style wing, the history, English, and art that we have to my right, the bodies left. So that's what we took as a point of departure. So when we looked at options, we were struggling to see what can we do, how can we do the greatest good with what we have available to us. And that black box option, the sort of open, I keep saying black box, I correct myself, that field house option allowed us to sort of move everything within the building. And for example, if we had less money than we do have available to us, some of these changes could have been, some of the renovations to this building could have been done in a more incremental fashion through the capital budget or through the budget of building maintenance. So we looked at how much money do we have for this project, and the options we were given, the field house was a key component part of that to allow us to sort of begin to move. So yes, we didn't cost out a new wing, because I think that a new wing itself would have blown our budget right from Jump Street.
And that's where I feel that we're lacking and we erred. Because we didn't need to add the number of square footage that the field house is adding. So I guess we don't know what we don't know, and that is my concern, is that we pay for a study, and I would have thought that that would have been something that they considered. I received a document, let's see, it was 7/29/22, and it was the studies concepts that you forwarded to me. And it stated that the first priority was obviously the science room, the science and STEM conditions, and then the second priority was the music department. And then I appreciated hearing that the gym size and administrative spaces were looked at, but only as they became tools for accomplishing the first two. So I do appreciate that, but I guess I just don't understand how it could not have been looked at. Aside from that, how many square feet, Mr. Moderator, anyone that can answer this question, how many square feet is the field house portion that is not the media section and the coaches area, and then there's a lobby on the picture, on the design schematic, and then there's doors to enter into like the field house? How much square footage is not the field house portion?
Mr. Buckley?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I'm not doing super well with numbers this evening, so I would like to throw that phone a friend for our architect, if you'd like to. He's looking it up.
Okay.
Oh,
We'll come back to it.
Another question is,
Mr. Johnson?
I actually had the same question this morning. I thought to myself, how many actual square feet is going into this field house space? That's 19,000 square feet, specifically dedicated for that field house. I know you asked the other one, what's the rest of it? It's actually broken down in that, I know you said you received this from the school department. Each section is broken down, so I can run through it with you. I have it in front of me.
Mr. Moderator, Town Administrator, yes, I received two versions of that document. One was from July and one was from a few months after that. So I'm not sure if it changed. But are you going to read from the July version?
I was going to read from the one dated July 29, 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. So the science wing's 15,500 square feet that's going to be renovated on there. The field house, like I said, is about 19,000. The music space, which is the existing gymnasium, is about 5,000 square feet. Counseling area is about 3,300, give or take, square feet. The other few areas, the nurses, is about 450. There's a classroom in there for 750. There's another classroom in there for SPED and other uses for 1,750. There's I think that's about it. The superintendent's off. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything else, but.
Ms. Barrows, do you have anything new? Because I've given you quite a bit of time.
I know, I'm sorry. Two more questions. There was a letter dated June 29th, 2022, and it looks to be from TAP Architects, and it was exploring the possibility of the gymnasium and making it two-story. And the analysis that was provided, the last statement says that, please note that in our judgment, this option of constructing the intermediate floor structure in the footprint of the gymnasium and raising the existing roof structure is cost prohibitive as compared to constructing a horizontal addition to the existing structure or replacing the existing gymnasium structure. So I would just like clarification. Am I reading it correctly or incorrectly?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I think we initially looked at, I'm trying to think of a good example in our area. I think Norwood has that second story kind of track. That was one of the add-ons that they examined briefly. And again, it sort of was over and above.
The second floor that is going in now in that space.
So that would be in the new gymnasium portion, the field house portion. So that was looking at, I believe, if you want to speak to it, a second floor track.
This is the architect, I believe, of the project. Is that correct?
Mr. Moderator, this is
Mr. Johnson?
Chris Blesson, who's coming up here. He works with TAP A. He's been the lead architect working with us on this project and the middle school project.
Before you speak, Ms. Barrows, do you have anything else?
One last question. The Plimpton building, that is not being, the budget for renovations to that space is not included in this. At what point is it going to be done through capital budgeting, or is there a timeline for?
Okay, great. Mr. Buckley, answer that question, and we'll hear from the architect.
Through Mr. Moderator, Plimpton, like this building, they were built in similar times, has gone through many iterations. We did have the Tech Phoenix Academy there for a number of years, and they did a fairly recent renovation to some of the spaces we did. We also have robotics up there on the second floor, and we did have central production as well. So our hope is over the next few years to address what needs there are. There have been extensive bathroom renovations already, for example, that the needs that come from for Plimpton into the future will be done through the capital process as well as the building, the normal building maintenance process. Much like when you look at what the great work they've done, Donnie, who's retiring, at Town Hall, sort of taking a classroom at a time and addressing them. Many of them are in very solid shape, especially on the second floor. They were renovated within the last 10 years.
Thank you, Mr. Buckley. Now the architect.
Chris Blesson, TAP A Architects. When we were looking at the memo that you had mentioned, it was a study on the existing high school gym and whether or not we could pull the roof off of that gym, build up, and then re-roof it. And the cost prohibitive nature is that you have to basically redo all of the structure within in order to rebuild basically the same box in the same spot. And so we said that that is probably not a wise use of money when you can build the same thing larger next door and get a better gym out of it instead of trying to create more program space inside of the existing gym. So we sort of took the second floor in the existing gym off the table as program space. It's one story.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Paul Smith, Precinct 3. Mr. Buckley, I attended that evening, and again, kudos to the school committee and the administration for their plans. But again, you've heard it twice. I think the third time it needs to be raised. Parking is going to be an issue. There's 1,400 seats proposed for that new gymnasium, correct? Mm-hmm. And how many total spots does that high school, when you're all said and done? 600, I believe.
Mr. Buckley?
We're adding 60, and we currently have 3. What's the total number after?
What will be the total number of the parking spaces?
Hold on. Mr. Johnson.
Paul, at the back of the room, there was this handout that also had the votes on it, and it breaks down the parking lot. So the existing parking is 374. The proposed parking will end us at 437.
437, okay. So clearly, where do these folks park if an event becomes so big and you are going to fill it? Now, we don't believe a one-to-one ratio to person to car, but students, if there's another event going on, the concern is that now you're going to put the burden on anybody in those streets across from Common. Which, again, I don't live in Precinct 4, I live up in 3, but I got to think that that's a problem. So, and I'm not sure where we are on the 35 million to a cap where we have some room. I mean, we have a field that, I remember it used to be the field hockey, I don't know what they use it for. Can you do anything for parking to alleviate some of the problem? I'm just, asking these questions to see if there's anything else you could do to alleviate the problem.
Mr. Johnson? Sorry, Mr. Buckley, Mr. Johnson. Sorry.
Jimmy, you want to start?
So, just from my perspective, we had, we worked with the Select Board, the Finance Committee, and the School Committee for about 2-3 years on this project. We all agreed, let's do this within a box. If we had an unlimited box, this project would probably be much easily surpassing $215 million. And I use that number because that's what the Tri-County school cost, and that vote was passed within the last year or so. I'm told that the same type of school out on the Cape for the Tri-County is about double, $430 million. I joke with some people, about $40 million doesn't get you a lot, but it is staying within the levy limit. We're being creative and using some old funding sources. We built up the capital stabilization, but in an ideal world, yeah, we'd love to have way more parking, and so much so that juniors wouldn't have to park down at the Council on Aging. That's not the case. Could we possibly one day go into the town forest? Yeah, but that I've learned when we did the Fields project back in, I think it was 06 or 08, we had to get a real act to go in, and it was just 50 feet right where the scoreboard is there. We've looked into possibly renovating the upper Turco field and the lower Turco field down in the back where it's dirt and dusty down there. We have some rough estimates. Those are about $1.4, $1.6 million to do. Ideally, we'd like to do more, of course. We're adding parking spaces here, but does it get us to the 1,500 or whatever we need? No, but we're doing it the Walpole way.
Totally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions and comments?
But through you, Mr. Moderator, to your point, however, I mean, I hope...
Whoa, hold on. Who's speaking?
Me?
Are you raising a point of order?
No, I was responding to his previous question.
Okay, fine. It's not a proper point of order, but go ahead.
Okay, it was a response to the previous question, but if you're satisfied, I won't keep talking, but... Anything else?
Okay. Mr. Carroll, something new?
Yes.
Yes, good.
Air conditioning. We talked about this, me and talk about the air conditioning. Is there going to be air conditioning in this place, or how does this all work?
In some of it, through you, Mr. Moderator, initially we had looked at electrifying the entire building to do HVAC. We've scaled that back as part of the project. We will be renovating the HVAC in the science wing because we're renovating that section of the building as a whole. We've already addressed the HVAC in the woodshop through a grant through our state legislature. We've also addressed the HVAC in the cafeteria. On the third floor of this building, we've already addressed HVAC over the summer through the capital process with ductless splits. But our goal is to, over the next few years, also through the capital process, to complete the HVAC renovation and revampment as the building's HVAC becomes at the end of its useful life, but we won't be touching sort of the back foreign language and math wings within this proposal.
I was talking to the town
administrator.
He's talking about smaller air conditioners.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
they're called ductless splits. Yeah, they're mounted in the wall. We've begun that process on the third floor of the 1908 wing.
Right. So you're going to do it on the second and
yes,
third?
eventually. Yes.
All floors are going to have it?
Eventually, over the next few years, yes.
And then this whole auditorium, is that going, I mean, this field place, is that going to be air conditioned?
Yes, because that's new construction.
But that's new construction. That's going to be a separate unit.
It's going to be part and parcel, yeah.
Okay,
That's
so
correct.
we're talking about single kind of air conditioning units on the floors inside the main building here.
Right, so we'll be using ductless splits for a lot of the...
Because I had 3 kids that went to this school.
It's hot, yeah, I know.
It gets hot. You know what I mean? Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Carroll, Mr. Johnson wanted to respond to your
Just
question.
to clarify a couple things. So this auditorium was air-conditioned a few years ago. Through this body, we appropriated funds for that. Over the summer, Don Anderson and DPW were able to put those small HVAC units in each classroom when the area is right above this floor here. That's the hottest part of the building. I think, not this past September, the previous September, I walked through there with the school superintendent, and a lot of the classrooms were 90 plus easily during that hot September we had. So we took care of that, the worst, the hottest one. And the game plan is we already have quotes in hand. We just got to coordinate with school administration to do second floor and first floor of this wing, and then continue that run in the other sections.
All in the $35 million?
No.
No or yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Not the entirety of the building.
Not all.
Yeah.
It'll be, if I could?
Yes, Mr.
So
Johnson.
this money here that we have, it's $635,000. It's roughly about $200,000 a floor. In the vote the town meeting took this past fall, you appropriated $1 million for various improvements to the schools. Part of those improvements, which we got a head start on, was for this wing. So this remaining $635,000, the plan is to stretch it to the other wings of the building.
The next question I have, you answered the question, is about lighting in the parking lots. I live across the street, and I mean, in the summertime, are we going to still have the lighting in the little hot dog stand place? That's where the lighting, is there going to be, can we save any money by putting in new things that the lights will go off at a certain time or on at a certain time? Because it seems to be blaring all the time in the summertime.
Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Moderator, through you. So a few years ago, again, this body, we were gracious enough to accept some funds for upgrading the townwide streetlights. We switched to the LEDs. There's some funds left over in that, and one of the items we've identified that we'd like to advance is moving to LEDs I believe you're talking about the tennis courts right there. Yeah. So moving forward with some LED lighting there, and we actually have a few proposals in hand and figuring out the cost of it. But yes, that is in the plans. That'll save significant funds on our electric.
If I could, Mr. Carroll and Mr. Johnson, part of his question was basically, would there be timers on those lights? That was just part of the question he had.
There are already timers out there. I've actually Don showed me how to use them myself out there at the snack shack.
When it was in the hot dog stand, you never know what happened because, it was not really going off and on time.
Yeah. The plan is to update the timers in there also.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Further questions and comments? Yes, sir. Mr. Trudell. Mr. Trudell moves the question. This is not debatable. It requires a two-thirds vote to move the question. All those in favor of moving the question, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is a unanimous vote. Oh, wait a minute. Was there an opposition? One opposition. Two opposed. It clearly carries. It's a two-thirds vote. What's before you now is the article, petition of the Select Board. This requires a two-thirds vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is a vote. It's a two-thirds vote with one dissent. Now, any other business before the town meeting under Article 1? Anyone else wish to report? There being none, I'll entertain a motion to dissolve the town meeting. Mr. Trudell? Motion to dissolve the town meeting? Wait a minute. And who's the second? Mr. Dalton has seconded that motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is a vote. Thank you very much, everybody.